attitude.
Difficult.
The defense is wrong.
Everything that guy just says, bull. Thank you.
Everything we're about to say could be bull bleep. It's PFTOT and PFTPM Monday edition. Chris Simms, Mike Florio. Things we didn't get to, or that we didn't get to the extent that we would like to during Monday's edition of PFT Live. Finishing up his coffee. You all right there? You choking on coffee?
Yes.
The Rams offense, they didn't choke last night. They won the game. We touched on this earlier when we were trying to make sense of the Mitchell Trubisky benching, unless it wasn't a benching, unless it was a benching. But maybe Jared Goff should be benched for Blake Bortles.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
yeah. I mean, two of your favorite quarterbacks are on the same depth chart.
Team. Yeah, and hey, I think I've tried to be fair to Jared Goff. Like, we're in games where they lost to the Bucs and lost to the Seahawks. I think you can remember I actually came back and defended him those days and said he made a lot of great throws and great plays. But fortunately or unfortunately for him, in a lot of their wins, he's played below average football. That's the biggest problem. They are a defensive football team at this point. And I understand that, he's missing a few weapons and their O-line's not as dominant. But again, when you're being paid, like, what is he, Mike? One of the 5 highest paid people in football?
$33.5 million a year.
Right. He's got to be top 5, right, in the league, somewhere in that range. Last night's game, when you watch it, go back and watch. I mean, they're managing the number 1 pick in the draft in year 4, or is it year 5? Year 5, going in after a year he went to the Super Bowl where they don't even trust him to throw the ball on 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 5. They don't even want to mess with it because they're just like, oh, gosh, well, we don't know what he'll do, and we're playing the Bears, so we'll let our defense just stop them. But, yeah, I think it's just concerning from that aspect. The interception he threw certainly didn't give Sean McVay the confidence there either. And Sean McVay was going to just run the ball and play defense and see if he could win the game that way and not let Jared Goff screw it up. And that's what that game said to me last night.
How is this sustainable, though, if the offense is built to have your franchise quarterback not screw things up?
Yeah, no, it's not sustainable. There's no way they'll be able to beat the elite teams in football that way. They're going to get away with teams where, like we saw with Pittsburgh. They can hang in there because Pittsburgh's offense stinks too, so they depended on their defense. And if Jared Goff doesn't have a fumble that's picked up for a touchdown, they win the game 12-10, right? I mean, that's really where it's gotten to, and it's concerning to me. And again, I just go back to the point, and it's just funny that Blake Bortles is on the roster with them, where the Rams negotiated against themselves. You said it. They backed themselves into this corner. And then it builds up the public perception that Jared Goff is really, really special. And, of course, he's from California, and there's that aspect of it, too. And a lot of the fans just see, oh, the team got better and Jared Goff was the starting quarterback. That must be the reason. No, it's not the reason. It's not. And I would be concerned if I'm in the Rams organization.
I've had people ask me, surely the comments made publicly by Sean McVay praising Jared Goff excessively and repeatedly, surely those don't become fodder for an agent to make the case for the guy to get a contract and for the guy to get a market value contract? And the answer is yes, they do. That's what agents do. I had someone who I respect, who understands how this business works, a long time ago say, the biggest problem a team can create for itself when things are going well is to praise gratuitously and excessively its own players, because the agents will use that when it's time to negotiate. And it's going to cost you more money. You're trying to hold your team together. You're trying to make it all fit, and you can't afford to have these gratuitous statements. You think Bill Belichick ever says anything good about anybody?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why he doesn't.
Right.
He doesn't want to cost himself more money. And so with Sean McVay pushing back against guys like you and me, who were criticizing Goff for his performance in the Super Bowl, and also pointing out maybe Goff is the quarterback that hears for the first time among these high-level guys, sorry, we're not interested in a second contract.
Right.
And it was a big to-do back in June when I went on Dan Patrick's show and said that, hey, maybe Goff doesn't get a second contract. Maybe Dak Prescott does and Jared Goff doesn't.
But people in league circles didn't think you were crazy for that thought either.
But
that's what people don't realize.
But Sean McVay decided to push back and push back and push back, and it set the stage for Ryan Tolner to go to the Rams and say, time to pay up.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a dicey conversation. It's a dicey spot for Sean McVay to be in. Because, hey, as we know, there's not always better out there, right? So you got to be careful about, maybe, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And they have won games, and he knows he had them this year, so he's trying to instill confidence in him going into the 2019 season to, build him up and make him feel good, and the offense and team feel good about the leadership at the quarterback position after a piss-poor Super Bowl performance like you mentioned. So, yeah, that's, I think coupled with, him and the fact that Todd Gurley's the second highest paid running back in football and is clearly not the same. Again, I'll just say there was runs last night and the screenplays where, yeah, he got some yards, but I sat there and went, old Todd Gurley's head would have hit the goalpost and we would have struck up the band and it would have been touchdown. Instead, it's a 10-yard gain or a 15-yard gain. So there you have your two highest paid offensive players who are not performing at a level to where they're being paid. And that's what I always say, right? I mean, follow the money on your team. If it's not performing, usually your team's not performing either. And they have a lot of their salary cap invested in those two guys.
And they signed Todd Gurley a year before they should have, and they regret it now. They would probably admit that, although you may have to give them sodium pentothal and or a couple of shots of tequila. And they're going to regret signing Jared Goff early. And look, I like Sean McVay.
Me too.
That's what makes this difficult. But you know what? That's part of his strategy, I think. And he's got that L.A. media wrapped around his finger where they won't ask him tough questions at press conferences because he uses their name.
He's incredibly charismatic.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, Chris. Right. Well, that's a good question, Chris.
Right.
And look, I'm not, it may be genuine. I'm not saying it's phony.
It is genuine. I've never seen him not be like that.
But the point is,
right.
It makes it harder for the people in the media, as a practical matter, to get on him. They like him. They don't want to push him. And they tiptoe around Todd Gurley's knee all the time. They tiptoe around Jared Goff's performance all the time. And it's kind of interesting to watch it unfold because not every coach gets the benefit of that kind of courtesy from the media that covers his team.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, it seems like the Rams have L.A. on lockdown. I mean, it does, too,
Yeah, because you got people in the Rams organization who I believe are doing everything they can to create the sense that the Chargers aren't going to be there for very long. So it's a great way to keep the Chargers down while they are down.
Well, that certainly seems like a fair point to make, too. I mean, I certainly thought that as well. And, I think when it goes back and what you're saying about Sean McVay is very real, but I've known Sean since he was, a low-level assistant with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's always been that way. Highly respectful, looks you in the eye. Yes, sir. No, sir. Hey, mentioned you by the name. So it is him. It's not like an act or anything like that.
But it works well when you're in a situation where people may be asking you tough questions.
It definitely does. It plays to his favor, and there's no doubt. And I'm sure he realizes that too. He is as smart as they come. And really what I go back to here is this is on Sean McVay, and Sean McVay is going to figure it out. He's just too intelligent of a guy to where, even last night we saw changes in their offense already where I went, ooh, different formations. I haven't seen them do that this year. Different personnel sets. Screen passes became part of the play altogether. I think he realized, hey, I can't trust my offense, so I'm going to go, to the dark side and play defensive football, punt it out, do things like that. I mean, that's the way he played, and I think he'll reevaluate and figure out a new formula.
It's better than pulling Jared Goff off the field and putting Blake Bortles in to run a read option on 3rd and short.
Well, yeah, that was definitely a skeptical moment last week in that Pittsburgh Steelers game. But I think the game we saw last night is what we're going to see a lot from the Rams down the stretch. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Littleton in the middle, Dante Fowler. They got some dudes on that defense. Wade Phillips is a hell of a coach, and they're going to ask their defense to be the strength of that football team, and they're going to play through that, and they're only going to push the envelope on offense when they deem like, okay, we have to. We're down in this moment, and now we need Jared Goff to make some throws. And, he made a big throw last night, for that one post touchdown and everything like that. But, again, for what he's being paid and what we're expecting out of him, it has to be more than just, one play a game or this or that. It's just not enough. And I think we would all agree with that. And anybody watching football, I think, would agree with that right now.
Jared Goff, one of the quarterbacks in Super Bowl 53, the other quarterback, Tom Brady. Things are going well if you look at the standings for the New England Patriots. Things are not going well offensively for the team. It's all about a defense, Chris, that you've compared to the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens. Tom Brady yesterday after the game, a game in which the only offensive touchdown came from Julian Edelman throwing a pass on a gadget play. Brady was a little pissy at his press conference.
I didn't realize
Short
this.
answers, Bill Belichick style. I guess he was a little pissy also on WEEI this morning. He does a weekly spot there on the Greg Hill Show. And it makes me wonder what's going on, where this is heading, how much longer he's going to be there, and will he make that phone call this week or next week to get Gronk to come back? And even if Gronk isn't at the point where he has the weight on him to play, he has to be back by the last business day before week 13 or he can't come back this year ever.
Right.
So you bring him back, you put him on the roster, and you just feed him protein shakes over and over again until he puts the 20 pounds on, then he's ready for the playoffs.
Maybe. I mean, they certainly could use him. They just, again, I think first off, they're just not that great on the offensive side of the ball. They have offensive line issues. They want to run the ball. They can't do that. That's really what they're built to do. And then that's where a lot of their assets and money are as far as that position and doing it. N'Keal Harry just getting back healthy, their first-round pick. Maybe he can help their offense here down the stretch a little bit. But they don't have a guy that can back you off in the pass game. And then when you can't run the ball and pass protect all that well either, it's just tough to always overcome that, especially against really, really good defenses. Now, they did enough yesterday to manage field goals, and they play the right, complete, full football game. Brady's never had to really deal with this in his career, so I'm sure he's pissy. But I think ultimately the biggest thing to me, Mike, too, is, like you have said with Aaron Rodgers, Brady knows what he's doing, and I think he's trying to just hold the rest of the offense accountable to, this is not good enough. And he's showing them, I'm really pissed off, so you guys should be pissed off too. And we got to raise our level. And they're good enough to where they don't need to raise it that much. They just need to get a little bit better to where we go, oh, okay, they can move the ball on the Ravens, or, they can move the ball on the Chiefs defense enough in the playoffs and those type of scenarios, because it doesn't look, he scored 20 points. They're winning, basically. That's where they're at right now. You get 17, 20, you're going to win the game because of how great their defense is playing.
Brady said this on WEEI today. As crazy as it sounds, we're still kind of a relatively new offense, getting familiar with each other offensively.
They are.
The strength of our team is our defense and special teams. So on offense, we just have to take advantage when we get opportunities, understand where our strengths lie, and try to play to them. Not giving short fields, not turning the ball over. Try to take advantage when we get in the red area and score touchdowns. That's kind of where we are. That's kind of where our team is.
Right. It's honestly, it's like it's gone full circle. This is a little bit how it was to him to start his career, right? It was, man, we're going to run the ball. We're going to just manage the game offensively, and Brady would make a few big throws every game and some big moments, and you'd go, man, they did it, and their defense was really good. And then of course, he started to get better and better as every year went by, and he just started to take over whenever he wanted. But, yeah, I don't think the supporting system around him offensively right now is good enough, and him at age 42, he's not going to be able to just carry the team all the time, week by week, and they're going to have to kind of play that style here down the stretch.
Okay, I didn't have access to you on Friday because you were sitting around doing nothing that day. Myles Garrett on Thursday night, ejected, suspended for pulling off a helmet.
I was at Notre Dame for everybody.
I know.
I just want to make sure they know.
Pull off a helmet. You're going to pull off a helmet and whack me over the head with it. Pulled off a helmet and whacked Mason Rudolph over the head with it. 6-game suspension plus whatever they decide to do next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh. I mean, that was crazy. Okay, I just, that just went above and beyond crazy what Myles Garrett did basically use a weapon to bash another player in the NFL over the head with it. It's just totally unacceptable. It really is. Now, I won't lie. I saw this one time in a practice before. Now, it didn't connect, but I was in the Tennessee Titans, and there was a fight between offense and defensive linemen, and the offensive lineman got the defensive lineman's helmet off and swung it at his head. Okay? Now, thank God he didn't connect, but that's just dangerous, total loss of emotion. Myles Garrett, he's lost a fan, in my opinion, for me. I'll have a hard time, I think, ever rooting for him again after that. I know it's a brutal sport and the emotions run high, but, he's smart enough to know you don't go down that road right there. And does Mason Rudolph deserve a little blame? Certainly. He was given some extracurricular activity there after the play. But
he deserves blame, but he did nothing to provoke that.
No, he deserves to be fined or something like that, not suspended. And, yeah, I just am very disappointed by Myles Garrett in general and Larry Ogunjobi. That was, BS on him, too. There's Mason Rudolph just been whacked over the head by a helmet, and Ogunjobi goes behind him and blindsides him after he's just been whacked. Like, that was a cowardly move as well, and it's just not a good look for the Cleveland Browns and certainly not for Myles Garrett, and I'm totally in line with the NFL and how they suspended him.
Now, one of the areas on appeal will be that you can't have an indefinite suspension for an on-field act of misconduct, that it needs to be a specific number. And my reaction to that is, hey, be careful what you wish for, because maybe they'll say, fine, we can't do indefinite suspension. It's 12 games. It's 16 games.
You're right. I mean, okay, why can't you? I mean, first off, I mean,
if the rules don't contemplate it, that's fine. But fine, we won't do it.
But the rules weren't contemplated to think that we were going to be taking people's helmets off and trying to, commit manslaughter. All right, with hitting him over the head with a helmet. I mean, we didn't think we were going to have the rule book in the NFL. They didn't write up the rule book thinking, one day a player might actually try to bash another guy's skull with his helmet off and use the helmet as a weapon. We should put that in the bylaws of the NFL. No, this is unforeseen, and therefore you deserve unforeseen type of suspension. So you're right. You better be careful what you wish for, because maybe they will make it like a full 16-game type of thing. And just disappointed in Myles Garrett in general, because he's a phenomenal football player. He's one of the best defensive players in the league.
Speaking of that concept,
do you think he didn't? First off, too, last thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine. I had a good segue to the next topic, but go ahead.
Yeah, don't forget it. But also, what I'll say too is, I've heard people say like, oh, he didn't know Mason Rudolph threw the ball. Bull crap. Mason Rudolph
matters. He still took his helmet off and hit him with it.
Mason Rudolph threw the ball right by his ear, and Myles Garrett, as high level as an athlete he is, he knew Mason Rudolph had thrown the football. And then he just continued to hold on and drag on and do all that too. So, yes, he instigated it, and then Mason Rudolph lost his cool to a degree, and then Myles Garrett went 4 degrees past that after.
One last point on this, and I said this last week, but I want to reiterate it, and I want your reaction to it. When we get to February and we start checking the boxes on topics to discuss, and in the aftermath of the scouting combine, when you interview players, one of the things we ask them is, what kind of crazy questions did you get at the scouting combine? And even though it is by no means inexact, part of why they ask these guys crazy questions is they want to figure out, among other things, can I trust this guy to not blow a gasket on the field under the stress and strain of playing football? Where is his trigger? How do I manage this guy? Can I trust him to not that you expect someone to take off someone's helmet and hit him over the head with it, but you want to know who the hotheads are. And that's part of what they do. They want to get you upset. They want to see what it takes to get you upset. They want to see how you react when you do get upset.
Definitely.
And so it's not as crazy as it may sound. Now, there's some illegal questions that get asked, some inappropriate questions, but I think there are tactics and techniques that are justified, because the idea is, how does this guy handle pressure? And someone who is wired to use his physical prowess on the football field between the snap and the whistle, does he use that physical prowess to resolve other areas of conflict in his life? Can he flip the switch? That's all very important.
Yeah, it is. Now, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's exactly why they do it. They're kind of just trying to, test the water, see where the guy is mentally. Will he crack? Will he say something stupid? Will he get emotional and fly off the handle? And, I think Myles Garrett probably passed all those tests, but certainly failed it on Thursday night.
All right, last topic for today's PFTOT, something that continues to generate news. And look, I didn't start it. Colin Kaepernick didn't start it. The media didn't start it. The fans didn't start it. Everybody was minding their own business last week when the news came out that Colin Kaepernick would have a workout in Atlanta for all teams. And, Chris, I go back to that moment when I saw the first report from Adam Schefter. I just assumed Kaepernick set it up.
Yeah.
And I had somebody from the league reach out to me and say, we actually set this up. It's like, okay, thank you. Why? It still makes no sense to me a week later why the NFL, as its 100th season begins to progress toward the playoffs, why in the world are you throwing, for lack of a better phrase, this turd into the punch bowl? Why are you doing this? This is a topic that you don't want to deal with. This is something that you don't want to mess with. Your teams haven't offered this guy a workout in 32 months. What are you trying to prove here? And everything that unfolded after that just confirmed over and over and over again what a bad idea it was for the league to say, we're going to set up a workout for you, because they should have known, given the history between the parties, There's going to be suspicion. There's going to be mistrust. You can extend an olive branch, and Colin Kaepernick's people are going to be braced that they're going to get whacked over the head with the olive branch.
Yeah.
And that poisoned this from the outset. They never should have done it. You need a better understanding of the circumstances and just let the sleeping dogs lie. That's what they should have done.
Well, I think there's so many things at play here. It's certainly not a good look for Colin Kaepernick or the NFL. I mean, that's the first thing I would say. Second off, I mean, do we know how long this was being planned beforehand? Well, that's where we're not quite sure yet either.
And I don't care. I don't care. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes as you make plans to do something, at some point along the way, you have that moment of clarity where you say, this probably isn't a good idea. Right. And that's where you need to be able, and this is a challenge, when you have expended time and effort and thought to a certain project.
Yep.
Your ego gets caught up in it. We can't stop now. We've spent time working on this. We can't stop now. We've already decided to do it. Well, you can stop anytime you want. So I don't care if it was 6 weeks or 6 months. It was a bad idea. And I don't care what the objective was.
Yeah.
If you want to get the guy back in the league, you start picking up the phone and calling people and saying, do me a favor here. Give this guy a workout. Do me a favor. Sign this guy. Man, look at your depth chart at quarterback. You could use this guy. Sign this guy. You will get X from us. You want to host a draft? You'll host a draft. You want to host a Super Bowl? You'll host a Super Bowl. Now, that's an extreme carrot to dangle, but there are, at any given time, a broad array of issues that teams are working on the league about. Different concerns, different things. And there's plenty of basis for a horse trade.
Yeah.
That's what you do. That's what they did with Michael Sam.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the league truly wanted to get him back in. The league wanted to create the impression they're trying to get him back in.
Yeah.
And whatever the league's intent, Kaepernick's people were suspicious from the get-go, and they had to know that they were going to be suspicious. See, if you're truly interested in getting the guy a job, you sit down. You don't.
They should have negotiated a waiver that made sense for both sides. That's the first thing that I want to talk about.
That's a different issue. That's a different. I'm talking about. I'm trying to
agree on the parameters of the workout. Everything.
Here's the point. But Chris, when you have something that you tell Colin Kaepernick about on a Tuesday, and you're going to do it on a Saturday, 4 days isn't enough time to work out all the stuff that needs to be worked out to do it. That's part of what you have to take into account. Mm-hmm. You have to look at, how are we going to present this to him? Maybe you offer to come to him. Hey, we'd like to meet with you. And I wonder what this is all about. We want to sit down and we want to talk to you. The presentation of the first concept is critical.
Yeah.
Your flexibility or lack thereof when requests are made or questions are asked. I mean, you're going to be leery. If you're Colin Kaepernick, you've litigated against these people. You've taken between $1 and $10 million out of their coffers. They're not happy with you.
Do you think they were trying to pull a fast one on him by signing that waiver that had kind of the cryptic language where, they could basically say that, he's free and clear after this moment?
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I'll say neither side was interested in getting Colin Kaepernick on a team.
Right.
Both sides had other agendas at play.
Yeah,
the agenda was not, let's get Colin Kaepernick on a team. Because here's what happens, and you mentioned the waiver. They send the waiver on a Wednesday. I have the waiver. I studied the waiver yesterday. I couldn't let a client of mine sign that waiver in light of the history between the two sides. I think that would be malpractice to do it because it can be interpreted in a way, if you're going to be aggressive later, if the crap hits the fan later, it can be interpreted in a way that you've signed away your right to a second collusion lawsuit, to a lawsuit alleging that you were retaliated against because you filed the first lawsuit. And that can be a very, very viable claim because it's very easy to find the motivation. The motivation is, we don't like this guy because he sued us and we had to pay him money.
And we don't want him to sue us again and have to pay him again.
And hey, look, we've found this way. And so it's, but here's what should have happened. Mm-hmm. And here's where I think Colin Kaepernick's camp got it wrong. Mm-hmm. The moment you get that thing and read it, that's the moment you call your contact at the league office and say, look, this release you sent me, it's got some language in here that may be a little too broad. And we all know what potentially could happen. Mm-hmm. We don't want to foreclose anything here. There could be a decision made to file a second grievance. We should make sure that he preserves that. Surely you're not trying to take away his right to do it. And the league was, oh, no, we're not trying to take away his right to do it. But, if we can somehow luck into the opportunity to make the argument later that he signed away those rights, we'll take it. And so there should have been a negotiation then and there. They should have gone back and forth with alternate language to make it clear that he's not giving up those rights. What happened instead, no significant action was taken on the waiver until the day before the thing when Kaepernick's people went and got a different release, a Georgia Tech football release, which was very short, and said this is what he'll sign. Well, that sets up the fight. See, I think that neither side was serious about this being a real opportunity to get back into the NFL. So it was about playing chess, and it was about posturing and positioning. So at the end of the day, we win the PR battle, and if there's another legal battle, we win that too.
Yeah.
That's what I think was going on from both sides.
Yeah.
The league side and Colin Kaepernick's side.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you with the league side. I do. And, I just wish Colin, I guess in my heart of hearts, this was at least, again, I don't know if it was totally realistic, but a chance for Colin Kaepernick, I think, to put the pressure on the NFL even more here. That's where I think I think he was ill-advised through this. Don't sign the waiver, but still have the workout there in Atlanta at the facility. Don't make it an hour away. That's the only thing I would argue.
Here's the thing about an hour away. Here's the thing about an hour away.
Yeah.
And look, and for every position one side takes, the other side has a response. Does it change things for you if I tell you that 1 hour away from the Falcons facility also was on the way to the airport, that you were going to be passing by there on the way to the airport anyway? Does that change your 1 hour away criticism?
Yeah, I mean, it does a little bit. I won't deny that. There's no doubt about it. But I just know from the people I talked that were there, too, were like, we're there at 3:15, and we're being told that the workout's going to start at 4 o'clock. And we're not going to get there in time either.
Right,
so
right.
That's where
but this
the other
all hit
issue
the fan at
falls into that.
2:30. Then the question becomes.
But I don't think it filtered out to the scouts and everything who were there on the field, kind of waiting around till then.
It gets back to my point that both sides were to blame.
I agree. I just, again, because I'm rooting for Colin Kaepernick, and he's obviously one of the 64 best quarterbacks in the world right now. I mean, he obviously should be on a team from playing standpoint. But it just opens, again, the door of criticism from the people that are haters against him, from the people who say he doesn't really want to play. And then the teams that might have even been dangling with the opportunity of like, oh, maybe we'll sign him. Now it just opens it like, oh, we can't sign him. This will just be a fiasco. It'll be a media craziness.
Change it, but it's the same thing it always was going to be. Because here's the problem. And this is like when you have Tim Tebow on your roster as a backup.
Yes.
There's going to be that group of people who constantly says he should be playing.
Yep.
He should be playing. Anytime the starter throws an incomplete pass, he should be playing.
Definitely.
Remember what they did in Denver? They jumped him over Kyle Orton. Mm-hmm. He should be playing. He should be playing. No, over Brady Quinn. Kyle Orton was a starter. Quinn was a backup. Tebow was number 3.
Right.
But we're pushing Tebow to the top of the stack.
And Tebow made himself available as a rookie every day to the media, which everybody, I know, rub people in
but
the
the same thing. The same thing will happen.
You're
with
right.
Colin Kaepernick. If he's the second string or third string quarterback on another team, then the next step is going to be we want to see him on the field. We want to see what he can do.
Like I said, I just wish he would have gone and stayed there. Did the workout,
but how do you? But the problem is they got to resolve the waiver. See, this is
screw the waiver. He worked out without a waiver anyways.
But
that's all I'm going to say.
They're not going to let him work out at the Falcons facility.
Yeah,
without the
you're
waiver.
right. That's the issue.
And the other thing too was the video crew. He wanted to have full transparency. He wanted to have a video crew next to the Falcons video crew, so whatever is generated matches.
Yeah.
Right. And you can roll your eyes and you can guffaw and you can scoff, but that reflects a failure to understand the poisonous nature of the relationship. And I have dealt with relationships like that when I was practicing law. And it gets to a point where the concerns that the parties who have been fighting forever have seem unreasonable to those of us on the outside.
Why was it so hastily planned? Why didn't they call?
The NFL.
Why didn't they all get together like 3 weeks ago and go through, here's what we want for the workout. Point. Let's make this work. So that's where it just seems, you're right.
That's my point.
I know, it seems crap.
Here's what you do. If you really want to do this, you get on the phone and you say, Colin, we'd like to come meet with you.
Yeah.
We'd like to take you out to dinner. We'll get a private room at a restaurant near you. And we want and have your agent show up, and we're going to we got something we want to talk to you about.
Yep.
And it's good. Okay? That's at a minimum what you do. You don't just call them up and say, hey, we're doing this on Saturday. You got 2 hours to let us know whether or not you want to do it. What the hell is that? Right? Well, can we do it on a Tuesday? No. Can we do it next Saturday? No. It's got to be this Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Why? I know.
I mean, and again, you have to take into account the relationship is already fractured beyond repair. That's the issue. You can't unring that bell. And the NFL tried hastily. And again, is this about getting him back in the league? Is this about PR? Is this about coming out of it with a piece of paper that you can wave around at some point later saying, aha, he signed the document that allows us to defeat his legal claims? If you're Colin Kaepernick and you're his agent and lawyer, you have to be worried about all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became gamesmanship, and that's where both sides are to blame.
Yes.
It wasn't about the best possible opportunity for him to get back in on either side. It was about putting yourself in the best possible light as this thing continues to go forward, wherever it may go. But here's the bottom line. By doing this, folks, the NFL has invited that second lawsuit. The NFL has taken a noxious, toxic stew that had been on the back burner with the fire just at that little flicker where it's barely on.
Right.
And they cranked it. They pulled it to the front, and they cranked it all the way up.
Yeah.
And that was stupid.
It was.
They should have just not done anything.
I agree.
All right.
Yeah.
We should shut up now. I think we're okay though.
I don't think
we
were
taped
bad.
this, so if we had to edit anything out, we'd be able to do so.
I don't think we
full
need to edit
transparency.
anything out. I think
he didn't say anything stupid.
We
for
discussed
a change.
it. I probably said some things that are stupid, but they won't get us in trouble.
All right, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight. Chiefs and Chargers. We'll have you covered on Tuesday's PFT Live and all day long at ProFootballTalk.com. New Chris Simms Unbuttoned coming later today. A 2-game deep dive. Check that out. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.